Looking for these better days.
It is Monday, August 10th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. Week 1 of the NFL preseason is upon us. We will continue our 32 in 32 team previews with the Las Vegas Raiders, and we might have some insight as to quarterbacks availability during the preseason. How will that affect our bets for week number 1 of the NFL regular season? Mackenzie Rivers joins me on this episode of Better Day, presented by FanDuel, as we kick off the new Better Day podcast lineup. Mac, good to have you on board. Happy New Year. The NFL Hall of Fame game was last Thursday, and this week is the first week of the official preseason, my friend.
Absolutely. The offseason is over. Good to be back. Going to be a great year.
So we had some news this weekend in the NFL. I feel like I've talked about it a lot because I had the 2 shows on VSiN this weekend. But the one big news that came out was Laremy Tunsil getting injured for the Washington Commanders. So they lose their starting left tackle for most, if not all, of the regular season. And I think you would agree, right? I know certain players affect the lines, like if Myles Garrett misses a game, like when he was with the Browns, it affects the line, right? Christian McCaffrey is going to miss the game for the 49ers, it's going to affect the line. But no position, non-quarterback, affects the spread, I think, more than losing a starting left tackle, like with the exception of certain players. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. It does depend on the quarterback, though. I think if, and it's a big if, the Washington quarterback is back from injury and as mobile as ever, then it wouldn't matter as much. And is Laremy Tunsil like a top-end guy? We saw what happened to the Chargers last year when they lost their left tackle to start the year and later saw their right tackle. Herbert had probably his most pedestrian season. So it definitely is a worry. Whether it's a half-point worry or a quarter-point worry, I think you could argue either way.
Well, I'm going to have to redo the numbers because we did our preseason trench report up on betterday.com. Better Day Insider and Premium members have access to this all season long. And what I did for the preseason rankings was I just took last year's numbers and then accounted for roster turnover, right? Different players in different places. Myles Garrett's on the Rams. Dexter Lawrence is on the Bengals, et cetera, et cetera. And in the overall grades for the Washington Commanders coming into this season, and again, these numbers will change once we get 2026 data, but I have the Commanders as the 27th overall ranked trench team. And their best unit, Mackenzie, is their pass blocking unit, where I had the Commanders as the 5th best pass blocking grade going into the 2026 season. But now you lose Laremy Tunsil, it changes your entire grading. And when I did the strength of schedule report based on the trench report, the Commanders had the 6th most difficult trench strength of schedule. Now you take away Laremy Tunsil, which decreases their grades. I feel like it's under 7.5 wins for me for the Commanders right now.
I almost want to take the alternative, like under, 7.5 is pretty low considering this team was like a top 8 team in power ratings last year, but I almost think Jaden Daniels just could get hurt again. This could be RG3 2.0, as others have said. But, best rookies, it's the parallels are obvious. Best rookie season we've seen in forever, makes the playoffs unexpectedly. Washington, Chocolate City is enlivened. And then early season injury, missed the playoffs, disappointing, coaching turnover. And now your left tackle, your blindside tackle is out. I think there's a real doomsday scenario where Daniels plays 4 games, he gets hurt, plays 5 games and he's hurt. And this team might be 4-12, 4-13 at the end of the year.
I don't hate it. It's definitely a possibility. Like I said, in the trench report strength of schedule, Washington with the 6th most difficult schedule of opponents. And what's that doing is that's taking the trench report preseason rankings. I understand that everything's going to change, but it's looking at the preseason rankings and then looking at the matchups every week. And they have a negative matchup almost every week. But the one good unit that they have was their pass blocking, which evens some things out. And now losing their starting left tackle, it changes everything. So I'm going to rerun the numbers this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if we even have a worser projection, if that's the correct word to say, for the Washington Commanders there. So the other thing that I was thinking of is if our opinion on the Commanders changes to the point where we like them to go under even more than we did maybe before, does that mean that we have to upgrade the other teams in the division? Like, does that mean that we feel better about the Giants and we feel better about the Cowboys and the Eagles because our opinion changed and we feel more negatively about the Commanders?
I think if you already liked a team to win the division, it helps a lot because the marginal wins you pick up if you think the Commanders are terrible and that's two easy wins does help you win the division a lot. On your win total, it's like, all right, a third of a win,
Mm.
or I mean, how much expected value did you already have going playing against Commanders? Probably like 1.5 wins out of two. Now it's 1.8. So it doesn't change your win total as much as there's one less real competitor in the division, in my opinion.
That's an interesting way to take a look at it there. The other news in the NFL, and this is so important, right? And we're going to be talking about this. I'm going to bring this up with Fezzik this week on our debut episode of the Better Day Football Show, which is live streamed every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Better Day YouTube page and the Better Day Twitter page. Our first episode is coming up this Thursday. I'm going to talk to Fez about this because information is king when it comes to the NFL preseason, right? But it's not just the NFL preseason, Mackenzie, where information is king. It's using that information to now formulate bets for the regular season, right? And so what we found out last week was that Andy Reid announced that Patrick Mahomes is unlikely to play in the preseason. Like, he's definitely not going to play in week one of the preseason, and he's probably not going to play for the entire preseason. I think we need to take this information and use it to our advantage to bet week one, whether we bet Denver +3 in week one or we do some way of fading the Kansas City Chiefs in week one, because we know we did the study last year. If you don't play in the preseason as a quarterback, your teams underperform in week number one.
And a lot of the best coaches do it, and a lot of the best coaches see middling or negative results in week one. Sean McVay, great offense in September, not so great offense in week one. Andy Reid has always been a guy that's killed September. He's also been a guy that played Patrick Mahomes 3 out of the 4 preseason games, or now 3 out of the 3. So it's definitely a big divergence from what they're normally doing. Denver is probably like at Denver would be worse, but Denver in general is probably the worst way to start your season coming off an ACL, to put Patrick Mahomes already into the fire like that. So what are you thinking? Like team total under maybe?
I'm thinking it's a full out like fade. Like, I'm thinking it's definitely Broncos +3, right? Is the play, because you're not going to get a 3.5, and if anything, those threes are going to disappear. Because also when you think about it, and I brought this up last week on the pod when we did our Chiefs preview, and also when we did our Broncos preview tonight. By the way, our 32-32 preview is of the Las Vegas Raiders. But I brought this up. If you were asking every head coach and every team in the NFL, what week you have to play the Kansas City Chiefs this year, what week do you want to play them? And forget about travel spots and bye weeks and rest situations. That's irrelevant. Every team has the same exact situation with rest, buys, travel. You have to play the Kansas City Chiefs, but you get to choose your week. Every single team is going to choose week one because that's the one week that you know Patrick Mahomes is not going to be 100%.
Even if he was 100% healthy, which is questionable, the rust is a real thing among quarterbacks, especially one that's asked to do as much as Patrick Mahomes. Often the leading rusher and leading passer, probably, hopefully not going to be the leading rusher this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's right. I think that's accurate.
Yeah. So we did the numbers last year. I have them in front of me. Quarterbacks with 0 dropbacks in the preseason. Prior to last season, the list had, 39 quarterbacks. This year, it's a little bit above 40 because we had several quarterbacks that didn't play last year in the preseason. But here's the numbers. And Mackenzie, you did a tremendous job putting together this article last year. The ATS margin in week number one for quarterbacks with 0 preseason dropbacks, about -2.5. The team totals go under by about 3 points. The games go under. The full games go under by about 4 points. And the first half is the same thing. First half ATS margin is almost -2. The first half team total goes under by a little over 1.5. And the first half over-under margin, same thing, under by 1.5. So consistently, if your quarterback plays 0 preseason snaps, your team underperforms in week one.
And to put those in perspective, like Tom Brady, 57% ATS for his whole career, his ATS margin was like +1.5, +2. Like that's a huge number for ATS. Like if you get 4 points of value, if you just do the number line and like how much your money line would have to be if you wanted to go up 4 points, you're looking at like a 65% play. So the question is the market adjusting? I just don't think so. I don't think you could put Chiefs -3 if you were considering this at all.
Yeah, that is 100% accurate. And I think that's where we're going to go here for week number 1 of the NFL season. We'll talk more about the NFL preseason and how we can use the information to our advantage. Again, the Better Day Football Show kicks off this Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself, Steve Fezzik, Joshua Nunn will do both the NFL and college football as we get ready for the upcoming season. It's just a tremendous time. I'm just so happy that it's finally here. Well, Mackenzie, it's time now to get to our 32 and 32 team previews with today's team, the Las Vegas Raiders. Our 32 teams in 32 shows team previews continue with today's team, the Las Vegas Raiders. And Mackenzie Rivers, boy, was there news with the Raiders this weekend. So for those who don't, Saturday, Max Crosby and Kirk Cousins got into a fight. Or, excuse me, on Friday, they got into a fight because Crosby hit Cousins a couple of times. And on Saturday, Clint Kubiak held both players out of practice. And he basically said, look, we're trying to build a culture here. These players violated our practice rules, and we're holding them accountable. So they both sat out practice, which enabled number 1 overall pick Fernando Mendoza to work with the ones in Saturday's practice. When you heard this story, Mackenzie, what was your opinion? Because I've heard a lot of differing opinions. I've heard things about questioning the leadership of both Crosby and Cousins. I've heard that Crosby is just a malcontent and wants out of there because he's still upset about the trade that didn't happen.
Yeah.
What was your opinion when you found out Crosby and Cousins got into it and then they were both held out of practice?
I think you bring up the complicating factor because generally, and Kubiak coming from the Shanahan tree, I've been to a few as a ball boy training camps. Fighting was not encouraged, but it was par for the course. No one trains harder than the 49ers, and I'm sure Kubiak, as far as practice, has a similar philosophy of we want these guys to go at it. We want to wear pads as much as possible, even if the players complain. We want real hitting, real toughness. Maybe it results in a few more injuries. That's an open question, but that's their philosophy. So my first question was like, why is it even an issue? Why hold him out of practice? Why not just have them go at it? Maybe in his old age, Cousins can't really like be in that one-on-one with Max Crosby. So that makes me wonder, is Crosby just trying to get himself suspended? Is he just trying to stay home from school? He does not like the Raiders. He walked out of the building not happy at the end of last year. I know it's a new coach, but it's the same ownership. It's the same everything. So I think Max Crosby might not be happy there. They might have to move on from him sooner rather than later.
See, that's, I think, the bigger issue here. I think that is the story. And I talked with Steve Cofield from Cofield and Company this weekend about it. And that was kind of the sentiments that he shared, that it was the malcontent issue of Max Crosby. And he actually said this was Max being Max, that this is nothing new for Crosby,
Okay.
right? And for him just not happy with the situation, and maybe the Raiders aren't happy too, because like no one's going to give them.
They signed the deal. They said, you're out of here. Thank you very much for your services. And then they had to watch and walk back through the door.
Exactly. So, and they're not going to get the same great deal that they got, in that proposed trade this offseason. So maybe they're unhappy as well. Maybe it doesn't resolve itself. Maybe Crosby's out of the door in a couple of weeks, or maybe after the first month of the season. But I took it a different way. Cousins comes in as the veteran, and everybody knows that he is going to start week 1, and he should start, right? Mendoza needs time. He needs to develop. Yeah. Tom Brady even said Mendoza needs time to develop. He shouldn't start, right? But for Cousins coming in, he needs to establish himself as a leader on this team, right? You're the quarterback. You're the captain. You're the leader. And for a player who's supposed to be one of your leaders in Max Crosby, one of your best players, to like disrespect Cousins like that, what's going on in that locker room? Do you think the other teammates are saying, oh, well, if Crosby doesn't respect him, then we don't respect him? I have those concerns now for Kirk Cousins.
I don't know. I've never even asked the question of, does anybody respect Kirk Cousins?
Right? I feel like everybody likes him. I feel like everybody likes him.
It's like beyond, I guess respect is a different axis to look at, but he's always been very ingratiated to his teammates from Washington when I was there, again, as a ball boy, or actually a PR intern at that point, to Minnesota wearing the chains. He's just like the guy everybody likes, the guy everybody likes to joke with and
Yeah.
rev up. So I find it hard to imagine that there's this growing discontent with Kirk Cousins. I think it's more of a Crosby issue.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk about this team. Up on FanDuel right now, the Raiders plus 520 to make the playoffs. Their win total is at 5.5. It is juiced to the over, minus 146. And some player futures, if you're interested. Fernando Mendoza has a passing yardage prop up, 2,299 and a half yards, 12 and a half passing touchdowns. Look, I fully...
They're giving him like 8 games.
Yeah, I was about to say, if we try and figure out the math here, I fully expect Fernando Mendoza to play this year. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the thing is, I don't know when, because their schedule, and this is why the Raiders have a win total of 5.5, their schedule sucks, Mac. Like, this is a difficult schedule. Where is the soft landing spot that you want Mendoza to make his first start? Is it week 8 at the Jets? Okay, well, then you have to go to San Francisco the next week, then home to Seattle, then at Denver. All right, that's going to be your first 4 games as an NFL starting quarterback? Okay. Like, there's just no easy spot to put him in.
There's this article I found it on Sage Journals. I think they're just copying it, but it's called NFL Quarterback, the Role of Competing Quarterbacks, Rookie Playing Time, and Team Quality. And they studied quarterbacks from 1994 through 2017, and they found 2 very strong correlations. If you play a lot year 1, you're more likely to play a lot year 2, 3, 4. However, if you don't play a lot year 1, you're much more likely to make it to year 5, year 10, year 15. And I think the idea is very strong. If you're forced into playing, it's because you're from a weaker organization and you're from a Jets-like, Zach Wilson-like, or Anthony Richardson Colts-like situation where they're kind of just throwing stuff at a wall. If Tom Brady is able to hold Mendoza back, I think it's going to be better for him. I think this team's not strong enough. I know they're plus 500 to make the playoffs. I don't think they're strong enough to make noise. They don't have a receiver. They have a bunch of tight ends. I would say give Kirk Cousins the whole year. I would be more in favor of that. Will it happen? I think it has a chance to happen because I don't think the Las Vegas fandom, maybe in LA it would be different, but in Las Vegas, the Raiders are not like something that you live and die with. You're not eager to go to a Raiders game at the end of the week. It's more for people coming into Vegas to visit. So I think they play the long game here, and I think he plays, maybe a few games, maybe when Cousins gets out, but I don't think he should start. But Drake May started, and he ended up being the best quarterback in the league almost the year after. So there are some counter examples, but Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, they all benefited from very extended waiting times behind a middling veteran quarterback.
What hurts the Raiders is that they have the late bye. Week 13 is their bye week. And then after the bye, they are home to the Chargers. So you know that at least you won't get out-fanned here in Vegas, a home game against the Chargers. So maybe you start him there in week 14, and he plays the rest of the season, week 14 through 18.
That would make a lot of sense.
Maybe that's once you realize you're like mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, right? And then you hit your bye week, and then you come in, and Mendoza, maybe he wins you a game or 2 at the end of the season, and the Raiders finish as a 5-win team or something like that. I have no official play on the win total. Like, if I had to make a bet right now, it would be maybe over 5.5, which is the reason why it's juiced. Like, I think 6 wins might be doable, just because there are some
I think
spots.
The quarterback, the coaching change, gives you at least a win.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like the newest, most avant-garde offense versus the oldest, most defensive-oriented rah-rah guy exiting the door. So I think over 5.5, if I had to pick, makes more sense. I also don't love the division. The Chiefs could be struggling. Chargers, I'm not sure about. The Broncos, I'm not as sure as they were as dominant as they were last year.
Yeah. Well, you got a good opening game. So you beat Miami in week number 1, and you're ahead of the 8 ball. And then, you can play the Jets, and you got Cleveland on the schedule. You got Arizona on the schedule. You got Tennessee on the schedule. I mean, you can get wins. And maybe if you steal a win or 2 in the division, that's the way that you go over 5.5. All right, that will do it for our preview of the Las Vegas Raiders. 32 in 32 continues. We do 32 teams in 32 shows. Tomorrow we will wrap up the AFC West with the Los Angeles Chargers, where Michael Fiddle will be my co-host, as he will join us each and every Tuesday here on the Better Day podcast. The Better Day podcast lineup is now available up on, we tweeted it out so you can see the graphic. Mackenzie Rivers each and every Monday, Michael Fiddle every Tuesday, David Behrman every Wednesday, AJ Hoffman every Thursday, and of course, the Better Day football show streams live on the Better Day YouTube page and Better Day Twitter on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. So make sure you follow us across all your social media channels. And the Better Day mobile app is now available, of course, on iOS. And later on this week, it will be available for everyone on Android as well. Be sure to check us out at betterday.com. Learn how you can become a Better Day Insider or Premium member. For Mackenzie Rivers, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.